We are recording.
Now call to order the Design Review Board meeting via the Zoom platform on June 2nd, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. located at the City of Bisbee, 76 Erie Street, Bisbee, Arizona, 85603. We'll do a quick roll call. Peter Gaffer,
Present.
Stephen Green,
Here.
Yvette Ponte,
Present.
Scott Perfect,
Here.
Linda S.,
Present.
Ben Lepley,
Here.
Sean Young, present. Frank Davis is here,
Here.
and Nina is here. Is Joe with us tonight?
I'm not sure if he's going to be joining or not.
Okay. All right, thank you. The staff would like to inform all applicants of the following. One, that all applications on the DRB agenda will require a building permit or a sign permit. Two, that the Design Review Board approval does not necessarily reflect the views and policies of the State Historic Preservation Office, which controls the decisions impacting tax status of designated contributing historic properties. Please review SHPO's policies. If necessary, contact them directly before making any exterior changes to your property. The intent of the design review process as applied within the Bisbee Historic District is to A, improve and encourage uses lending to the conservation and or rehabilitation of buildings, structures, sites, objects, spaces within the historic districts while allowing for a vibrant, creative, and livable community. Also encouraging harmonious growth and orderly development. Also assuring that future setting, design, and constructing will correspond and enhance the visual characteristics of the district and prevent construction, alteration, or remodeling from occurring in a manner that would be detrimental to the historical or visual characteristics of the district. The Design Review Board shall have the power in the Historic District Overlay Zone to review proposals for exterior construction, reconstruction, alterations, or structural changes, and to approve, conditionally approve, or disapprove an application. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant to prove to the Design Review Board of its design that the project in question conforms with the intent and purpose established in ordinance and with the adopted design guidelines. Approval should solely be based on the application submitted as a whole and the information given to render a decision, along with the Design Review Board guidelines and the state of the interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. The board's decisions should not be based on whether you are in good standing or not with the applicant. The Design Review Board has no authority regarding fire access, planning, zoning, sewer, water, parking, or drainage. The board can encourage the applicant to use certain materials, but cannot deny the applicant's application on the basis of their financial means. The board and city staff cannot preserve Bisbee's historic districts by themselves. They need the help of every property and business owner in order to preserve Bisbee's unique and historical character. So going forward tonight, let's all work together. First, call to the public. This is not for any of the issues that are on the agenda tonight. This is just for a general call to public. Do we have any?
Monica would like to speak.
All right, Monica, you have 3 minutes. Monica, you're muted.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right then, so I live on the house across the street, 205 OK Street, has a plastic cover from the garage for half the garage with a huge big rip in it. It doesn't look like it is conforming to the building standards of the historic district. I want to tell you about it. So that's it. I have my house for sale, and that certainly is a deterrent.
Okay. It's been noted.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Moving along, right along, old business agenda, item 1. This item was tabled from our April 7th and May 5th DRB meeting. It's application 21-24, Bisbee Residential Historic District, non-contributing property number 188, located at 921 Tombstone Canyon. Applicant Patricia Carbajal. This application was seeking approval for fencing. If everybody recalls on the board, this application, we tabled it because we needed the permission from ADOT, or we needed the resident to make sure she had permission from ADOT to proceed forward. If you all saw your emails today, that was granted by ADOT, so that's not an issue that we will discuss tonight. At this time, I turn it over to the applicant to represent, because at the time we had the application before us last, we were in question of the fencing material that was originally selected.
Yes, this is Patricia, and that was noted. I had to do our research. We did locate a woven fence that will be utilized, that was submitted in the application, so that it is not going to be chain link per the review board's request last time. And ADOT has granted all permissions to move forward.
Okay. Do we have any public comments pertaining to this application?
This, and I just wanted to note, this was also a safety issue that we're trying to address because of the ongoing number of javelinas that continue to be present in the yard, both front and backyard.
Thank you, Ms. Carbajal.
Mhm.
At this time, I open it up to the board for discussion.
Sean, I
Yeah,
just want to point out that she's also asking for retro approval for the skirting and siding and
yes,
to
I saw
remove the
that on
broken
there.
stringer. Yeah, because that's going to have to be added to the application when approved.
Yeah, I was gonna, when I was opening it up to the board for discussion, I was wondering if anybody was gonna bring that up, or if anybody had any questions on that, any recommendations.
Okay.
I had saw the emails that came out. The other question I have, that in the email string that I saw, there was also a shed mentioned, and I wanted to make sure that that wasn't a part of this, because we haven't seen any design plans for that.
It has not, as it was just going to be the standard tool shed, like the aluminum or metal tool shed, just so that we can put equipment, yard tools.
All right. To move this application along tonight with the board, I think what we'll probably have to do on that is you'll have to submit a separate application for the shed.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay? Just so we can get the fencing approved and get you going, and the skirting and the other issues that are listed.
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Yes, Linda.
I just have a quick question. I was wondering, my packet doesn't have a photo of the fencing. I know it kind of described it, but did you have a photo in there?
Um,
It came in an email with that Nina sent out late this afternoon about 3 o'clock with the ADOT approval.
From somebody pull it up just so I can see it. Thank you, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Mhm. So we are going to be using the woven fence, the galvanized, and attaching in a top so that it meets that woven, that loop top, that aesthetic that you wanted presented in that fence. And that's what we had provided to the ADOT.
Got it.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
I have a quick question for Ms. Carbajal.
Mhm.
So I saw two types of fencing in this. I saw the very decorative with the woven. And then I saw another type listed on the page prior to that. And I see it in rolls, but I wasn't sure. Is
Can I ask a question to Ms. Carbajal?
Mhm.
Okay, now is the fence going to consist of these two different types of fences? And if they are, how is one juxtaposed to the other one?
The main one, the woven one, the tallest of that will surround, and the decorative piece will be affixed on top so that it, welded onto the main fence.
Decorative portion of it.
Right, for the main decorative portion. And then pending, we're trying to get the same color. If not, then we will
It'll be all the same
make
color.
sure that it is the same decorative color. So that, so that'll be attached, that what you're showing now will be welded onto the main fence so that you have that loop. Unless if you don't want that, we can go with just the galvanized straight fence.
I don't have a problem with both of them together, to be
Okay.
honest.
We're trying to comply. I think
Yeah.
it looks fabulous. Our goal is to make it look amazing.
I don't have a
But your proposal is
Well-
for both of them combined, is that correct?
Right,
Right.
because of our last meeting where we were told to
Trying
use the
blend
loop.
in.
So we wanted to blend, we wanted to make sure
We want to be as proper
Okay.
as possible.
Right.
We want it to look exactly like you
Well,
want it to
and I
look.
think that's what we need to take a look at, is that the two are going to be combined, one on top of the other one. And that is their plan. So that's what we need to, we need to vote on.
The only other question I have is, what are we looking at for a total height here? Because we're only allowed 4 feet in the front and 6 feet in the rear of the property. And I already know that this is a difficult property line to follow, what is in the front of the house. And I'm looking at this, and the specs are on this are 8 feet, just on the woven.
Well, we won't go higher than 5 feet, absolutely not.
I think the specs that we look at.
What?
Hopefully we provided the specs. that
Yeah.
will be the proper height. The proper height should be a combination not to exceed 5 feet.
Right,
Well, we can only go 4 feet on the front and 6
That's not a
feet.
problem. We simply drop the decorative down a bit because the woven itself is 4 feet. So the way that we're affixing it is done in the way that it was done in the 30s and in the 40s when they used original piping and they used wiring, and then they soldered all that wiring together. You can go back and sort of look at how the original was done, and we're trying to duplicate that. So the height is not a problem. In the areas that you need it to be 4 feet, it can be 4 feet.
Yep.
We asked for additional because of the animals and the sloping in the back area, but that area I don't think you're really in question about, because that area is really off to the side and doesn't come into play for the main area that we're talking about.
we're able to hear.
So my understanding My understanding is that you're fully aware of the parameters of the height that you can build your fence. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
That's absolutely correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And then one last question. I know we were talking about a roll gate and also a pedestrian gate.
Mhm.
What was the final plan for?
We are
Construct-
still going with the pedestrian gate. There's two. One were the original, both were
Pedestrian gates.
where the original pedestrian gates were. So that is still in play. The driveway, the gate, that will be a roll in. It's gonna be in
It'll
the
be a
yard,
rolling gate.
right? It'll be a
In order
rolling gate
to-
inward.
In order,
Go ahead.
a rolling gate implies that it rolls against the property line, not to impede on any else. Doesn't swing in or out, it rolls. And ADOT was extremely comfortable with that concept, and that's why we went with that concept. Originally, we were gonna do a swinging gate. They encouraged a rolling gate.
And when you say rolling gate, you do mean a bypass gate where it actually goes behind the fence itself?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So I'm assuming that the front of the property based on the address is on the Tombstone Canyon. So you can go, I know your gate's 5 feet and that's the side that could be 6 feet tall, the back and the other side, but the front is be 4 feet on the Tombstone side.
Exactly.
Correct. Yes.
Where it would be
Okay.
logical, where it would be attractive, and where it would make absolute logical sense.
Does the board have any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, I would definitely, if someone would like to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we accept DRB application number 2124 as is.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wow, thank you.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Five.
If you're, hold on just one second. If you're accepting it as is, then you're accepting the shed
Oh,
without
no,
approval.
yeah,
So can we say that?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we accept DRB application number 2124 as is with stipulation that a second application is submitted for the structure of a shed.
Yes.
And I will go ahead and second that.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Thank you.
Ms. Harbaugh.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, moving along. Agenda item 2. This item was tabled from our May 5th DRB meeting. Ms. Marsh, are you here? You're
Miss
still
Marsh,
muted.
if you could unmute.
You're still muted, Ms. Marsh. There you go. Can you hear us? Looks like she's disappeared. I know she had a quick question for the board. Is that correct, Nina?
I believe so.
No?
I believe so. I think she's trying to connect to the audio now.
Okay.
Miss Marsh, can you hear us?
To move things along, I already know we're gonna have to make a motion to table this. Let's go ahead and, I'll take a motion to table this until our next meeting. And when Ms. Marsh is available to speak to us, we'll let her address the board and ask her question regarding those windows. Is everybody acceptable with that?
I'd like to possibly think of the moving her towards the back of the meeting, giving her a little time to gather herself. We've extended that courtesy to others in the past. I think we could do that here if that's acceptable.
Well, the thing is we're still going to table this at the end of the day. She just has a quick question for us regarding style because she has not selected the windows yet, and that's not before us. So what I would prefer to do is go ahead and get this tabled, and then when she comes back on and is available, we can squeeze her in to ask her a quick question.
Okay, that makes sense, Sean.
Sean, she just messaged and asked that we proceed without her. She couldn't get it to work.
Someone like to alert the live meeting. Do I
I'll
have a
second
second?
that, Sean.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I'm sorry, my computer froze. Who made the motion?
I made the motion, Peter
Okay.
second, and it was unanimous.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Moving along, new business, agenda item number 3, application 2145 Bisbee Residential Historic District, undetermined, assumes contributing located at 816C Tombstone Canyon, applicant James Tosh. This application is seeking approval to replace damaged siding with similar siding, replace windows with same style of door back, correct foundation leaks, roof repair, basement, and replace fencing and repair a rock wall. Hand it over to the applicant to present to the board. Mr. Tosh, it's yours.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to basically renovate this house, and keep the integrity as is, pretty much as you see it. Of course, it obviously needs a lot of work, and I would like to see if I could amend the exterior. I've been thinking a lot about duplicating the siding, and I have to a degree, to a total degree. But what I'd like to do, in lieu of using siding for the entire periphery of the house, what I'd like to do is, after I repair I have to install a sidewalk / culvert around the back and the periphery of the north face of the house. And what I'd like to do from that point on up to about 6 inches past the window sill is use a stucco, and then have it segue up to, and then have the siding, which would be all new, extend all the way up to the top of the house. The reason why I'd like to do this is, number one, I think aesthetically would be within the historical integrity of the house. It would provide a better seal, a better weatherizing, and I just after looking at this, I think it would be a smart thing to do. So I'd like your opinion on this.
And you said that was on the north side that you were wanting to do that?
No, it would be when you look at the front of the house, and there's stucco in between the decorative slats on the top. There's also stucco on the front of the side of the house. And then after meditating on this, I thought this would be a very smart thing to do. Instead of like trying to replace the entire home with the existing like siding. I thought it would be perhaps a better thing to do to use stucco up to the windowsill all the way around the house, and then incorporate the siding as it is all the way up from that point.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Understand?
Yes, it's definitely open to the board for comments. Sorry.
I'd like to comment on that, on your idea. Oh, who's first?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Oh.
that was me.
Okay.
Linda, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'll go after you.
I'd like to say that in order to keep the look of the home, I have no problem seeing the stucco come up on the basement portion, but I definitely have an issue seeing it above that. So the basement, or where the foundation is, that sticks up a good 12 to 14 inches, maybe a little bit more. But coming to the bottom side of the windows is just going to completely change the look of this beautiful home. So I'm not in agreement with that.
Well, I think I appreciate your opinion, but you see this is relatively common in historical homes. Whether you see this in old craftsman homes in San Francisco, Seattle area. I mean, it's not as if this is going to be an anomaly. So I don't know. I think it would. I don't think it would be an impediment to any degree.
I have a question, Dan. Part of your reasoning for doing this, was it to reclaim some better siding from other parts of the house and move it up to repair higher pieces of siding that were rotten or damaged? Was that part of the intent? Was to take some good stuff from below and move it, and patch it?
Well, here's the deal. If I don't, up to a point, the existing siding, a lot of it is intact as you go down from the top of the house. So most of the siding coming up from the basement area up to like the window sills, it pretty much, I can't see it all needs to go. But that would be part of my intent, is to use some of this existing siding and bring it up to areas that would need to be re-sided.
Because that might save you from having to mill down or find the same siding from a store or something, right?
Well, exactly, man. This is, and when you take into account, I might have to go to Phoenix to get this remilled, or Tucson, and I can do it. I just think this would be just a good way to redo the house. Once again, I just think this is, in my opinion, smart way to go. Aesthetically, I think the house is going to look like $1 million. So I'd like to do it.
So can I just ask a question clarifying? You want to run the stucco up to the bottoms of the windows? To the bottom?
About 6 inches past the bottom of the window sill. So visualize a nice beefy muscular piece of trim that's going to separate the stucco from the side. And not there's going to be any like color clash or anything like that. It's just a good way to to separate the stucco from the siding by using a piece of trim. But yes, if you see ideas or homes that are using stucco and siding together, you always see the stucco come up about 6 inches past the bottom of the windowsill.
Is that more conventional design as of a later era?
No, this would be like a standard practice in whether it be a craftsman or a Tudor style home.
Okay, because that's definitely a craftsman house, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We had a similar application, it wasn't a Craftsman, but it was that house that was falling over on Youngblood, and Brewery. This was like last year or a year and a half ago, John Sky. And they took off, they were kind of forced to, but they took off shiplap siding and replaced it with stucco on the entire bottom level. It's a 3-story house, and then went up for the next 2 floors and just left the existing siding there and patched up. So there is precedent to accepting this sort of thing.
I disagree, because I'm looking through a book right now and I'm seeing a lot of where the stucco is on the existing house seems to be fairly common, but it does not wrap around at that height, covering the bottom of the windows or surpassing the windows as far as height is concerned. And I think I'm having a difficult time picturing that, and not sure that that is a convention that is highly used, if ever. So that's my opinion right at this point. I'm not saying that's how I vote on this, but I'd like to research that a little bit more, because I do have a design wise, I do have a feeling about extending that stucco as high as that is all the way around the house.
I agree with Scott. I also did some research, and I have not seen it once go, not even, at least 12 inches below the windows is the closest I could see it going up, definitely not wrapping around them.
When you say wrap around, the stucco the windows would not be completely, it's enveloped, all the way around. I'm talking like stucco, like about maybe 4 to 6 inches above the bottom of the window.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at the pictures, that's really not absurdly high. I mean, that is, to me, this is not, it would be not disproportionate at all.
You're 6 inches above the bottom line of the window is understood. I get that. I think, and that's what I'm having a problem with.
I do want to point out that the front porch of the house is stucco. And I've got a question for Dan. If you're using that line as the line of demarcation, matching that existing line of the stucco porch, because if you're not planning on doing that, that actually, architecturally speaking, would match perfectly if you took that top line of that stucco block on the left and the right of your front entry and just use that as your line of demarcation, wrap that around. Just a suggestion / question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm open. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I appreciate all your comments, and if that would be a more doable solution, then I'm all in.
I would agree with that, because if you look at some of the other homes in the Bisbee area, some of these Craftsman, whether these porches were done like that, that is their line and it wraps around the entire house, and then the wood is up above. So I would be more than acceptable, find that more than acceptable.
I guess my hesitation is that a lot of Craftsman style houses, the front porch will be masonry, or they might be stucco at a later date. But that's as far as the masonry goes around the house, other than basement level, like Linda had brought up earlier.
Anybody else?
I think I think the term that we're supposed to be using is wainscot, and wainscots are adjusted throughout the country to different areas based on snowpack and rain. They do provide some utility, and so sometimes you will see a high wainscot where you've got that wraps all the way around the house when you've got a snowpack. and you want to protect the wood from decomposition from snow or rain. So there is stylistic adjustments that you can make accordingly. In this case, there's wood rot on the bottom panels. So.
Anybody else have any other comments?
There you go. The doors are pretty high already, so you do have to step it even into the back door, and we don't get that kind of weather. You're up on the hill, you're all the way on the top. I don't see it. And your windows, the bottoms of your windows are all over the place. You have a lot of different window sizes. I'm looking at the other pictures I took when I went up there.
Yeah, I think if we allowed that stucco line to come up, I would say that it would have to be, my personal thought process, it would have to be based off of the front of the home, and then wrap around accordingly. And yes, there are some windows that are going to be higher, but the stucco doesn't go up to that line. We start it with the lines on the front of the house and let it wrap around gradually. I'm okay either way. I think if the applicant can salvage some wood, some of the siding, and use it up top without having to replace with brand new, that is also our objective here.
If I could just add,
Yeah,
I think my concern is the applicant has sort of introduced a new concept which is not covered in the packet. So I think it would be either I would ask for the application to be tabled so that we could, unless I'm misunderstanding, I think this is an idea that he's putting forward at this meeting, and I don't think it's properly documented. I don't have an issue with the stucco. In fact, I personally think that has merits, but I think it needs to be better documented.
Well, I mean, I think we all have a clear picture of what stucco is and how it would meet the bottom of the siding. I don't want to table this for another month.
Well, can I make a suggestion? Can we table this for 1 week? So we can come back and address his issues at a quicker time? There's no
Sure.
reason that we have to table this for 30 days.
All right.
We're not doing it in a meeting in a week. That's why.
No, I'm asking for a special session so we can discuss this in particular. And I don't think there's any bylaws or any guidelines that says that we can't do that.
That's an entirely different issue. If we want to go to a special, if we want to have a special session to.
And that's what I'm
Hold
asking.
on. I'll call a point of order. We're here to discuss an application. We're not here to discuss and revamp guidelines.
And I'm not asking that. That's not what I'm
Okay.
asking at all.
So we table it for 30 days, or we find a solution here tonight to meet the applicant and make a determination. You guys can put a motion forward.
Sean, this is Yvette. I have a comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that the National or the U.S. Department of the Interior dates stucco back to 1871. If part of the question is this qualifying as historic, it may not be in our guidelines, which we need to look at, but it is recognized by the Department of the Interior as historic, and since 1871, if that helps anybody make a decision tonight.
Thanks, Yvette.
Okay, I like to say that the question is not whether you use stucco or not. That I think we've all decided is okay. The question is, does it just cover the basement, which is in some areas the shortest, I would say probably 12 to 16 inches, and it extends to probably a good 36 inches or even 48 inches on the front of the house. That to me is acceptable. It's going, 6 feet up or whatever. It's going to be higher than half of the home.
and so now that we've all laid out our opinions and groundwork, I hope that this will help. The question that we have to answer is, will this add to the historic distinction of the building, or will it detract?
I have to say it's going to distract.
Okay, then make a motion.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we table this for 7 days so we can get a special session meeting in next week to expedite the gentleman's schedule. And we're not holding him off for another 45 or another 30 days after that, after today.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
So I'd like to make a motion, if I may, Sean.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to accept application at 18 or 816 Stone Canyon with the change that the stucco line up with the stucco on the front porch in height and wrap all the way around, and all other aspects of the application be approved.
Do I have a second?
Before, can I make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Goff.
Sure.
We haven't discussed the carport at all, which is all part of the application.
I'm fine with the carport.
I didn't say I wasn't. I just thought that we should at least air it and hear what the applicant has to say.
Ben, would you like
Yeah.
to modify the motion then, Ben?
Well, actually, the motion was including the carport, but if anyone, I can change that. If anyone wants to change that.
I would second your motion, Ben.
All in favor?
is Yvette.
Motion and a second.
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's a 5-2. The two opposed are Scott and Linda.
Was that the same for the first motion? It was 2-5. The 2 for 4 were Scott and Linda, and the rest of you were against it? Okay.
Correct.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tosh. Moving on, at agenda item 4, application 21-46, Bisbee Residential Historic District, undetermined status property, 963, number 963, located at 513 F. Bailey Hill. Applicants William and Ann Moats. This application is seeking approval to convert an existing garage to a guest house. Before we open it up to the application, I'd like to address the board real quick to keep us on point this evening, that the applicant is well aware of the zoning regulations for accessory structures and independent dwellings. We're not going to discuss the zoning codes regarding these this evening. The applicant already knows that they have to make modifications to the interior to meet the zoning regulations before a building permit will be issued. So that has been worked out between the applicants and the building inspector. So having said that, tonight, I hand it over to the applicant. The board is just to look at the merit of the exterior changes on the building.
Okay, can everyone hear me while I get my cheat sheet together?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, we'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to present our project and explain why we believe the design of our project meets the design guidelines for the Bisbee Historic Districts adopted March 19th, 1991. in the City of Bisbee zoning code ordinance 0-98-13, adopted June 8, 1998, is amended June 2019. So our presentation is organized in 3 major parts. First, we will give a brief overview of our proposed project. Second, we will review basic principles and rules covered under the zoning code and design guidelines that apply generally to our project, but nonetheless are significant with respect to the overall exterior design presented in our proposal. And finally, we're going to add some supporting information concerning the covered porch design, the exterior doors, the windows, and the awning. So starting off with part 1, an overview of the project. What we'd like to do is convert our existing garage to what we're now calling an art studio. As mentioned previously, it's not going to be a guest house as was indicated on the application. And on page 3 of our application, which is drawing 000, there's a 3D rendering showing the covered porch to be constructed on the east side of the building. We consider the porch to be the most significant change to the exterior look of the building. Clearly, the existing garage door is going to have to be closed in. We're going to add another man door to the northeast corner of the building. There are 2 existing larger windows on the south side of the building that will be moved to the east side. The original locations closed in. The existing small window on the south side will be closed in. We're going to add a man door to the west side of the building, which will essentially be the back door and is partly being done for safety reasons. And then there's some other minor exterior changes, which include an awning over the back door and a HVAC compressor. Now that we've gone over kind of an overview of the project, let's move on to part 2, where we explain how our design meets basic principles and rules found in the design guidelines and zoning code. We include pictures of the garage and a picture of our home on page 11 of our application, and the board members might want to refer to page 11 now. We purposely included a picture of our house, even though it's not a major part of our application, because our home, in our opinion, and apparently that of the tax man, is non-contributing with respect to the historic district, notwithstanding its undetermined status indicated on the agenda for this meeting. The architectural style of our home is best described as modern or contemporary. It is box-like with simple lines, moderately pitched roof, characterized by having large and many windows and lacks symmetry. The garage, central to our application, was built circa 2004-2006 and mirrors the contemporary style of our house. Furthermore, 4 of the 5 houses closest to the property along Bailey Hill are of a contemporary style. Such a style is common among homes in our immediate area. Zoning code at Article 5.3.5.A.3 on page 24, under the title Historic District Criteria for Alterations, Secretary of Interior Guidelines, and Design Guidelines, page 33, Standard 3, under the title Summary of the Secretary of Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation, indicate that all buildings and sites shall be recognized as a product of their time. Furthermore, Article 5.3.5.A.4 of the zoning code indicates that changes over time are evident of history and development and may have acquired significance in their own right, which is to be respected. Additionally, zoning code at Article 5.3.5.A.3 and the Secretary of Interior Standard 3 also indicate that alterations that have no historical basis and which seek to create an earlier appearance shall be discouraged. The latter principle is also found in Design Guidelines, page 15, under the title Another Renovation Concern, which indicates the same. By example, that if you have a house built in 1950, it is not required that the house look as if it was built in 1905. Furthermore, design guidelines indicate on page 7, under the title Planning Your Project, that there are 2 main issues to be considered when planning a project. The first being respecting the original features of the buildings. The second, best how to relate the proposed changes to existing neighborhood styles. The rules of guidance that we have just cited are important in that the contemporary style of the existing structures should be respected. Moreover, the proposed design, when implemented, would conform to the contemporary character of our home and that of nearby houses in the neighborhood, all of which are considered to be considered as a product of their time. Now I'd like to move on to add some supporting information concerning the porch design, exterior doors, and the awnings. We'll start off with the covered porch, which we mentioned earlier, which we think makes up the most significant change to the look of the existing building. And again, we refer the board to page 3 of our application. Note that on page 15 of the design guidelines, and the title "Do Not Mix Styles" discourages the mixing of styles. Page 17 of the design guidelines, under the title "Porches," indicates that porches should be included whenever possible in residential designs such as ours. We believe the moderate pitch, exposed framing, and simple lines of the porch design match well with the same features of our home and garage and respect the contemporary styled existing building, our home, and our neighborhood. Furthermore, the proposed metal roof over the porch would match those of the garage and our home. You can see pages 11 and 12 of our application. On page 15 of the design guidance, under the title "Roof Coverings," standing seam metal roofs, like proposed in our application, are allowed. Exterior doors. The exterior doors meet the design guidelines because they are in the same style of the existing man door on the garage. You can compare photos on pages 11 and 12 of our application. They are also similar styled for panel doors, shown on page 20 of the design guidelines. Windows. The windows of the existing building all match and also are similar to some found in our home. The best way to maintain matching windows on the existing building is to reuse the windows, which is in keeping with the design guidelines, respecting the original features of the building and maintaining one style. And finally, the awning. It's not a particularly large feature. It's only roughly 3 feet deep by 5 feet wide. It's going to be installed on the west side of the building, where in this case, visibility from a public street, which would be Adams, is limited to about 70 feet because of the terrain and vegetation. The look of the awning is in keeping with the overall contemporary style of the building, meeting the design guidelines by not mixing styles. So we conclude our presentation by stating it's our belief that our proposal fully meets the zoning code, design guidelines, and should be approved by the board. We thank you again for the opportunity to present some information on our project, and we stand ready to answer questions.
Mr. Moats, thank you very much. I turn it over to the board for questions.
This is more of an observation than a question, but the new windows that are being placed there are sliders in order to match the remainder of the building.
Would you like me to respond to that?
No, that was for the board.
Oh. This was built in Mr. Moats, do you know what year the home was built in?
I don't. I looked on Google Earth at some of the historical photographs there. And unfortunately, the resolution of some of the earlier photos is not very good. But it appears that the main home was extensively remodeled sometime probably either the late 1980s, perhaps the early 1990s.
Does the board have any questions?
No, I would like to compliment Mr. Moats on his very thorough presentation. Thank you.
I agree. is Mr. Moats, what type of sliders are these that you've proposed?
We're proposing to take existing windows on the south side of the building and move them to the east side. Right now, all of the windows in the building are sliders. They all match. And again, the reason why we want to move these windows over is not just to save money, but it keeps as much of the building looking as original as possible.
Ben, do you have any input?
Not really on this one. I would say since we're not trying to match perfectly windows right next to each other in a row, it's kind of a non-issue for me.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve application number 21-46 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Stephen Green.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 That's unanimous. All right, you're very welcome. Have a great evening, Mr. and Mrs. Moats.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, application 21-47, Bisbee Historic District located at 15 Wood Canyon. Parent parcel Laughlin side, applicant Yancey Garner. This application is seeking approval for a new construction of 2 single-family residences, 2 stories, approximately 1,500 square foot each. The 300-foot notification went out on May 10th, 2021. We've received, at the time of this application, this agenda went out, we had received 8 public comments. 6 were opposed, 2 were in favor. Only one of those out of the opposition was within the scope and purview of the design review board as to aesthetics and the style of the building. There will be no discussion tonight on this topic, whether or not this is zoned residential, whether this is a fire hazard or fire marshal issue, whether this is anything other than the purview of the board, which is to simply determine whether the design of the 2 new structures meet the merit of the design review board guidelines and the Secretary of Interior standards that we seek to uphold each and every meeting. So as stated, approval should solely be based on the application submitted as a whole and the information given to render a decision, along with, like I said, along with the design review guidelines and the state or the Secretary of Interior guidelines. At this time, I give it over to the applicant for a presentation.
Good evening. This is Brian Hope speaking. I'm working with Mr. Garner on this project. As the application states, Mr. Garner wishes to build 2 single-family residences, splitting up an existing lot, which is huge. The footprint of the building is approximately 745 square feet. Total habitable space of approximately 1,500 square feet, making it a modest size residence. We do understand we're in a historic district, and we worked on the design and we chose all the finished materials with respect to that. Our panel roofing, we're doing non-muttoned windows, double hung, wide corner boards, wide trim, folk Victorian detailing. We are building on a hillside, which presents all kind of issues. With respect to that, we are asking for a reduction in setback, a variance to 5 feet. The reason for that is because we were on this hillside, we're attempting to push the building back toward the Lockland side and avoid that steep slope toward the front. We're also asking for a height variance of approximately 4 foot to 27 feet. Reason for that is, we are aware of the height limitations, and we tried a shallower pitched roof. And for lack of a better term, it just looked stupid. Doing a shallow pitch on that or a hip roof just did not work. It was really aesthetically displeasing. So we pushed the ridge up to give it more of a pitch. It's only 612, and that seemed to work. In addition to that, the steeper pitch, there's less danger of pooling water. We're afforded better energy management, less debris, adds to the longevity of the roof. That's pretty much the house in a nutshell. I know there has been a slew of public comments regarding this house, and I'd like to take this opportunity to address those. The majority of the complaints seem to discuss the impact to Wood Canyon. And I think that stems from a lack of understanding of the project. Wood Canyon is not impacted whatsoever. If you would please refer to sheet C1, the site plan, you'll see that Wood Canyon is well below down the slope. The proposed building site is at the top of the hill at the end of Lockland Street, adjacent to the old city swimming pools. There's a lot of conjecture out there that views are being blocked. Well, no views are being blocked. These homes are set into the hillsides on the down slope. So the front of the house at street level is no higher than any single story residence. Furthermore, the nearest residences in the area are at a higher elevation, and their front views, their facades are oriented in different directions. We're not blocking any private views. Also, due to their location, we are not blocking any public views. From Wood Canyon, I dare say it'll be next to impossible to see these residences due to the heavy foliage and trees on the hill and the angle of inclination. They'll be well hidden. You'll be able to see them quite well from the highway, and that's about it. But we're not blocking any views. There's a lot of opinions out there about the visage of the structures. I would say that the massing and the volume is quite modest at 1,500 square foot. A lot of talk complaining about the 2 stories. There is no prohibition on 2-story residences. Our choice of materials were called directly from the DRB guidelines. And, we're showing, we're doing gable roof lines, horizontal siding, wide trim, corner boards, deep porches, period spandrels. Everything is within historically approved material. The rendering has gotten a lot of attention. That's been called out quite a bit. I would like to remind you that the rendering is concept art. It's nothing more than an opinion. It's the dimensioned line work, the elevations that tell the true story of these proposed buildings. Just going to touch briefly on fire protection. It's out of your purview, but that has been considered to assuage everybody's fear. We have potential solutions for that, but this is not the time or place for that discussion. We've taken into consideration environmental impact. I used a terrestrial LiDAR scanner to scan the proposed building site. I took those point clouds, created a land model, cut that into sections at every 10 foot. So we had a clear view of the profile of that land. And with that, we were able to determine the most optimum space in which to put these houses. A lot of talk about the erosion. The building of these homes is actually going to help the erosion issues. There will be retaining walls, and the subsequent grading and landscaping is going to further help holding in that hillside. A lot of thought, lot of forethought, a lot of planning has gone into this. Absolutely nothing has been haphazard about it. I think the majority of these complaints are without merit, and this is my opinion, of course. I will concede that nobody likes change. I understand that, but change is the only constant. Everything changes. The overall sentiment I'm getting from these complaints is well, we don't like it. We're quite used to the undeveloped hillside, and that's what we want to see. I defend everybody's opinions, but the opinions expressed do not present compelling argument to deny this proposal. That's all I have at this time. I know Mr. Garner is here. I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm sure he probably has items he would like to add for that. I thank you for your time and attention. Mr. Garner?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I have thought long and hard about building additional housing in Bisbee. And I want to see something. I saw something on your agenda and I want to quote, let us all continue to work together. And I certainly believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. And we had really put a lot of thought in the particular location as to where we're going to build on this lot. And my excavator actually had chosen a location that would have been a very nice build site. It would not have required a retaining wall because it was a hard dig, but we would have had to sacrifice a very large oak tree that was there, an old growth oak tree that was probably 20 inches in diameter. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to work with this land and not against it. I'm trying to put these homes in, but in such a fashion as they're more in keeping with the natural landscape. And like for instance, one talks about private and public views. There aren't any private views that are really implemented, that are really impacted. When you come down Laughlin, if I had placed the homes in pretty much an ideal location, there would have been some visual obscuring. But what I did is I fashioned these homes to go to the far left, to the far east, and the far west of the property. Within the guideline limit, I believe it's 5 feet, we're at about 7. And the result is that we're creating this vista, we're preserving this vista, and there's probably 80 or so feet between the sides of the two homes. So that was certainly consideration. The other consideration was to minimize the impact on the hillside, and that's why we chose the 2-story. If I had a single story, I would have a larger footprint, and unless I dug extensively into the hill, I would then be forced to build out on piers. And with a square footage of 1,500 square feet or so, we would probably have piers that would be 15 to 18 feet tall. Completely unacceptable, unsightly. And the whole idea is trying to build something that does blend with the environment. So from the Laughlin side of the house, it's going to appear as a 1-story home. You'll be able to access that home. I can access that home without any stairs. It's going to be user-friendly, and there's going to be a master bedroom in the top floor, so that if someone really wanted to, this could be an age-in-place environment. So I'm thinking for the long term and not just, I want to come in, make a quick dollar. These homes have been very, very carefully crafted and designed, and I chose someone here from Bisbee to be my draftsman. I had a gentleman that came out from Tucson, and he was an architect, and he showed up in a Range Rover. Well, he lost me at Range Rover. This was not my guy. He didn't understand what was going on here. And I wanted someone in the community who knew the requirements and could build properly. So I think there are a number of misconceptions that are going to follow, and reading through the public comments, and I read through them very seriously and took on board what they're trying to talk about. And I don't relish the chairman's responsibility at this point, because there's a lot of feeling and a lot of aspects that are simply beyond the purview of this board. And I believe, Mr. Young, you outlined what is really applicable in this meeting and what is not. So, but I do want to dispel some of the misperceptions, because the sticker or the official posting was put on Wood Canyon, and it came out with two giant purple things. Well, they're not going to be two giant purple things. They're going to be right-sized. And I've looked across the street, I've looked at my neighbors' homes and thought about using some of those colors and blending as much as we can, not completely mimicking, but blending with the character of the neighborhood. That's my objective. My objective is to be in concert and not stick out and not be odd looking. So from the Wood Canyon side, and I have to explain just a minute, the layout of the property. This property is over 65,000 square feet. This is not a 5,000 square foot lot that I'm trying to put another structure on. This is huge. And it extends all the way from Wood Canyon up to Laughlin, over 100 yards, over 300 feet. So from those buildings that I have board's permission to construct at the top of Laughlin down to Wood Canyon across the street, a distance of 330 feet from that structure to the other individuals. Now, that as I, but not as you would see. They are important reasons, but I'm maintaining the foliage with the utmost care and will not demise any of it. Try and keep it in place because it is good for the soil, it is good for the environment. It is a view that I want everyone to enjoy. So the impact, and I understand that some folks may have some opposition to the height, from the Laughlin side, it appears a one-story. From the Wood Canyon side, at a distance of over a football field, I don't know how much one can discern the difference of the extra 4 or 5 feet that we're asking. So I really ask that the board consider that seriously, and also the 5 feet that we would like to move forward, not a 0 lot line, but to 5 feet rather than the standard 10. There are no other buildings in line that would be out of step with. And that particular line exists on paper, and the neighboring lot line is a city property. So it's not as if it would be out of congruency, but what it would aid is in shifting the home towards a more stable environment, a more stable platform, and further away from that downhill slope so that we have a firmer and steadier building. As far as utilities goes, there was concern that there would be sewer pipes that would be exposed and be running down the hill. All of the utilities that we anticipate using are within 50 feet of the property line. The sewer, the water, the gas, and I've had on-scene activity with APS where they have agreed to move telephone poles and actually reduce the number of wires that would be obstructing a view from Rockland, and move the pole, and I'm going to pay to put the items underground so that it is a cleaner and crisper view. And it would actually improve, I believe, the view that is there. So basically, and in sum, I firmly believe that the lifeblood of Bisbee, that Bisbee's future is really in new construction. And there has been very, very little of it. My neighbor across the street, Mary's house, is absolutely spectacular, built in 2013. And I was friends with the previous owners, Ira and Vicky, and they invited me into the home and they let me photograph it. And I'd love to use some of the design principles that are there, because when you drive by, people say, that's a fantastic rehab building. I want to be in character with that, not mimic it to the point where I understand you're not supposed to try to create old, but certainly be within the spirit and kind of the vibe that Bisbee has. So what I'm trying to do is go on a limb, because nobody else builds new construction here. And there's probably a reason for it. You probably can't make money, but I'm willing to try. And I'm willing to do my part to help Bisbee survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. At this time, I'd like to declare the public hearing open for application 21-47 and receive public comments that are opposed or in favor. If there's anybody here tonight that is going to be speaking to this issue, I remind you that we are only here for the purview of the Design Review Board. I ask that we keep any and all public comments related to the purview of our jurisdiction. We cannot resolve and solve sewer, water, gas problems. That is not our jurisdiction and our scope. So if we can please keep the public comments relative to what the board will deal with, I would greatly appreciate it. You'll each have 3 minutes to speak, and I will go with those who are opposed first. If I have any who are opposed, go ahead and say so.
Hi, this is Jody Firehelm, and I don't know if I should start speaking or whether you want to get other folks to identify themselves before you start.
You're the first one, ma'am. We'll go ahead and you've got 3 minutes starting now.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Jody Firehelm. I live right across the street from 15 Wood Canyon. I did submit a written comment, and I'm not going to repeat all of that, but I did want to make a couple of points which I believe are within the Design Review Board's purview and which I think are important here. And I want to start with the height restriction, because it has been acknowledged by Mr. Hope that this construction exceeds the maximum height restriction in the historic district zoning ordinance. Mr. Hope indicated that he thought the construction was 27 feet. When I looked at the drawing, it looked to me like it was 28 feet 6 inches. So maybe that's been modified, but when I did the math, it was 5.5 feet over the 23-foot limit. And the zoning code, as I'm sure you're aware, does require the board to make a very specific factual finding if you're going to allow that height restriction to be exceeded. It requires that you find that the height exception is consistent with the public interest in maintaining compatible mass and scale, preserving public views, protecting the public interest in compatible characteristics of the area. And I don't think those standards are met here. And I want to speak to what Mr. Hope said, because he indicated that Wood Canyon was not impacted. I think he said something like it would be impossible to see the homes from Wood Canyon. I know that I will be able to see both of these homes on the hillside because I've looked up there. You can see them from my house. You can see them from my neighbor Mary's house. I don't know about further down whether you can see them, but they're not going to be covered by foliage. And so a 5.5 foot height difference is really going to make a huge difference because you don't have any other homes on this hillside. It's just it's a very steep hillside. You don't have homes, and to have two homes that are both exceeding the height restriction by 5.5 feet, it's going to be very, I think, very apparent. It's not going to be not impacted, as Mr. Hope said. It's going to be very, very impacted in terms of the view. As DRB to look at that height restriction pretty carefully.
And just so you aware, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, 1 minute. The other issue I want to raise is these two homes, at least as drawn, are identical. And I think that the DRB has power under section 5.3.3C and D of the zoning code to say that having two identical homes side by side is not consistent with the visual characteristics and the historic nature of Old Bisbee. I'm not aware of any two homes side by side. And if you start allowing new construction where you've got homes side by side that are the same, I think that's really going to impair the historic nature of the district. And so that's something that should be carefully considered for precedential value, as well as the fact that I think under the current guidelines, you could say that that should not be accepted. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there any other public comments this evening that are opposed to the application?
Yes, I would like to speak. My name is Elizabeth Lewick.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I did write in a comment to opposing this construction. I live on Laughlin, 107B, Laughlin Avenue. I also own 107A. And my two properties were built in the early 1920s. And I would honestly defy anybody to make anything look like they fit in with my two buildings here. We strive very intently to keep up our property and to not do anything that would make it look like there's some new construction or something that doesn't fit in with the Old Bisbee atmosphere. And my opinion is that these potential constructions would look very much like new housing. They don't, to me, from what I can see, and I'm not a design review person or somebody who knows much about construction, but what I can see, they do not look like they would fit in with the old-fashioned atmosphere that we're used to here in Old Bisbee. I am opposed to this, and I think that it would look like they would be very out of place here. Also, they would be adjacent to the old swimming pool, bathhouse, and changing rooms, and those were built by the WPA. So it would have to go along with that to make it look like it would fit into the neighborhood, and I'm just not seeing it. Again, I thank you very much for letting me comment on this, and I would like to weigh in as being opposed. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Do I have any other public comments this evening that are opposed? All right. Do I have any public comments this evening for those that are in favor of the application?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Apel. I live at 907B Tombstone Canyon, and I'm speaking in support of this project. As a former chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I served on for 15 years, we dealt with this issue in the mid-2000s, keenly anticipating a moment just like this, where we updated the zoning regs with mass and scale and height, new mass, scale, and height restrictions in the zoning regs in the mid-2000s, in anticipation of people coming along and wanting to build McMansions. That was the term that was being used at the time. And I don't feel that the particular designs that are being proposed are anything like a McMansion that we were so afraid of back in the 2000s, in the mid 2000s. And I appreciate the comments and the concerns expressed by my good neighbors. I've lived in this neighborhood for 24 years. And I know every square inch of Laughlin and Wood Canyons, as well as Tombstone, as I've been walking my dogs and my daughter's there for 24 years. And I really, with the exception of Jody and Mary, who may have a direct view up the hill from their porches of this particular residence, I feel that the argument that there are no two-story homes is really not valid. Within our direct neighborhood right here, we actually have 5, I've counted on my hand just sitting here, 5 two-story homes, including the one I'm sitting in right now. And so there is a precedent for two-story homes in our neighborhood, including one just up the hill from the proposed 2 new houses. I do agree with one of the opposition that, having two identical houses side by side could set a different kind of precedent. And if there was any way to vary the design slightly or differently, I mean, I'm sure we can find examples in Old Bisbee of a couple of cottages that were built very similarly. And I could think of a few down on Tombstone Canyon next to the Banshee that are very similar to each other. There's a row of houses that are somewhat very similar to each other. I would support the variance on the height in that the Garners are really trying to strive, as well as the setback, as they're striving for having that home to be as well established on the hillside as far up the hill as possible and level with Laughlin Avenue, so as to appear as a single-story home. I feel that Mr. Hope and Mr. Garner made some pretty good arguments countering the concerns that were submitted by my neighbors. And I appreciate their concerns, and I feel a lot of those concerns about drainage and erosion and utilities will be addressed by Mr. Ward when he goes to issue the building permits for these, if these get approved. So with that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to submit my support for this project. And in closing, I've been a land use planner for 24 years, and as a planner, we're always in favor of infill as opposed to clearing hundreds of acres outside of the town of Bisbee for a new subdivision. And there are opportunities for infill in Bisbee, and there is a need for housing in Old Bisbee. And I feel that this meets that need. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Do I have any other comments in favor of this application? No? At this time, I'd like to declare the public hearing closed, and I call for the board for discussion. Before I hand it over to the board for discussion, I don't know if any of you have taken the time to read one of the sections in our DRP guidelines. But it talks about, and I just want to read it real quick before we go and we open this up for discussion. It says the challenge of designing a new building for the old Bisbee site is characterized by the need to follow some simple guidelines and integrate modern thought materials with aesthetic requirements of the historical district. There are some folks who would not want any change to occur at all, look and feel of this old city. On the other hand, there are those people who believe that modern progress at any cost is more desirable than protecting a bunch of old buildings. Both extremes are to be avoided. Indeed, it is possible to achieve harmony among differing viewpoints, and opposing ideas can live side by side. What is required is the thoughtful integration of ideas with the needs of the present generation. Instead of copying an historic design verbatim, new construction should borrow ideas of style, proportions, scale, height, materials, etc. from adjacent buildings, and then seek an honest contemporary solution to the design problem. So as I opened up to the board tonight, I asked to keep that in mind. It is open to the board for discussion with the applicants.
Stephen Green, if I can come in here. I have this picture in my mind that one of the major objections to this project is the fact that the two buildings will look identical. And my suggestion to the applicant is to whether they might want to build one as a mirror image of the other and use different colors and finishes on each to make them look unidentical, even though build-wise the materials and everything would be the same, just the appearance would be one of the other. Is something they may consider.
Brian Hope again, if I may, please. Yeah, we did look at that, and for economy of scale, we opted for identical footprints only. If you will look at the line drawings, or even the renderings for that matter, you'll see that the roof planes have been, and the gables have been rotated by 90 degrees. So that results in a differing appearance in two structures. Also, the structures are 150 feet apart and at about, I'm going to guess, about a 13, 14 foot elevation difference. So that separation assists in visual differentiation. Not going to throw mirroring out of the equation, but just like to explain these buildings are not identical. Thank you.
So I've got a comment on that subject. I don't know, were you done, Peter? Okay. And that is much of Old Bisbee was built with essentially mail order craftsmen, order Sears Roebuck houses, mine included, a lot of which were 100% identical and also built right next to each other. Case in point, there's two in front of Central School. Facing the Central School parking lot, to the north of it, facing south, there's two identical right next to each other. And that is kind of part of the Old Bisbee charm, is seeing these and then seeing how they've been remodeled or changed or aged over time. And, you know, but at the same point, I understand now that because of what happens in suburbia outside of Bisbee, with KB homes and all that other stuff, I do completely understand why somebody would object to that. But that has happened in Bisbee with a lot of identical houses right next to each other, many of which have actually been added onto and turned into one big house. So.
Thanks, Ben. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just wanted to make an observation. Both of the homes are not the same height. It's only one that's 26 feet, 9 3/4 of an inch. The other one's 17 feet, 9 inches. And I do like Mr. Green's idea of mirroring those, if at all possible.
If I may, please. Yeah, we're not opposed to mirroring anything. And the homes are of identical height from the lowest point of abutment, but the lowest point of abutment varies between the two structures because we're building into a hillside. Just for the sake of argument, let's call the northernmost house building A, building B. Building A of building B. So building A, the front door will be at street level. Building B going down. I'm guessing, I don't have that number right in front of me, I apologize, but there's probably a good foot in variation between buildings.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission,
Yes,
may I address the board on the question? The idea of mirroring certainly is something to be considered. There's a design principle, though, that Mr. Hope and I had really tried to go to the forefront, which was making these homes as carbon neutral as possible. There are significant window orientations to the south at approximately 179 degrees, not magnetic, but true. Where we can capture as much passive solar radiation as possible. We've calculated the proper amount of overhangs and the type of glazing that we're going to need. So part of this building and sustainability, and I think in Bisbee fashion, is to respect the environment, not just now, so in the future.
And if I may, just to clarify, we are only asking for 4 foot in height variance. Again, we're measuring from the lowest point of abutment. That's all we're asking for. 5.5 feet came up somehow. That is inaccurate. 4 feet and a 5 foot reduction on the front setback. Thank you.
My comment on this, I have no problem with the height variance. We've issued many height variances in my tenure on the board. We've done them to 29 feet. I don't really think that is a big issue in this one. The 5-foot variance, I don't see as a problem either. I don't know if any of the other board members agree or disagree, but I definitely don't think that these are going to block the views of anyone in any significant way, shape, or form. The fact that on one side of the house, it's going to be street level, you're not even going to notice the height variance. I really don't think that that is, there's an issue for us not to approve a height variance.
Sean, I wonder, you've basically taken the words out of my mouth. I mean, this is something that we wrestle with, and I've wrestled with since I've been on the board for 4 years. And I mean, if we were building in Warren on the Vista, you know, it's cut and dried. But here, it's a compromise. If you want a compact house, which this is, 750 square foot is a very small footprint. If you want a sprawling house, then that's the option. I think what they've done, and the applicant reference energy efficiency and so forth. This is an efficient way of building a house. Some of it's earth sheltered, which I'm sure in the HVAC calcs has been taken into consideration. So I think that I support what you just said, that having a variant, allowing a variance on the height is perfectly reasonable.
Thank you, Peter.
I also agree with that because we've done it before and it just kind of makes sense. And I do like that they're not at the exact same level. And this is just has nothing to do with anything, but I did speak to the neighbor next door, his closest neighbor. And I know that that he has a lot of respect for Mr. Gardner. He said he came to him, spoke to him, explained what was going on. And there's been several different designs, I guess, that have been discussed. So, you know, there was a lot of goodwill there.
No, I think that's very pertinent. Helps us make the right choice, decision. Does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding the application before us? If not, I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
Stephen Green, I'd like to propose we accept application 21-47 at 15 Wood Canyon as submitted.
Second that. Ben. Ben can have the second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Have a great evening, Mr. Garner. Thank you, Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention. Have a good
Thank you
evening.
very much for your consideration.
You too.
Now I gotta try
You
to make this happen.
Sean,
It's the easy part to put lines on paper.
Have a great evening. We've got a long agenda, so we're going to move along here.
Yes, sir.
All right. Agenda
Wait,
item 7, application.
Sean, wait, Joe has clarification to make or something to say.
Okay.
Go
Sorry
ahead,
about the
Joe.
intrusion.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think you guys need to mention specifically that you're granting the variance of the setback as well as the height.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Joe. I missed that one. So we're going to need to redo that motion. Mr. Green, if you would like to make the motion with the notation of the variances for the 27 feet and the 5-foot variance, then we'll revote and do the process.
Okay, my new motion is to approve application 21-47 with also consent to the variation on the height and setbacks as applied.
Ben, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I apologize for mentioning that, guys. Moving on, agenda item 7, application 21-49.
6.
Bisbee Residential Historic District, contributing property by 146 located at 6 Opera Drive, applicants Thomas and Nanette Slusser. The application for the following, repair concrete wall, install metal fence.
Mr. Chairman, haven't we
yes.
missed number 6?
Yes.
Come on.
John, we missed item 6, 804A Tombstone Canyon.
Sorry to interrupt.
2148.
Five. Oh, I did miss it. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh, it's all blurring together. Application 21-48, Bisbee Residential Historic District, non-contributing property number 170, located at 808 Tombstone Canyon. Applicant Susan Underhill. This application is seeking approval to construct a decorative trellis using existing garage walls. Mrs. Underhill, I apologize for skipping over you there.
No problem.
Go right ahead. It's your floor. The floor is yours.
So I'm Susan's husband. So essentially we have a, what remains of, I suppose, what was originally a garage. It's approximately 20 feet by 20 feet. It's a concrete masonry structure. There was a bit of the roofing left on it when we moved into the house, which we removed because it was really deteriorated and dropping nails and what have you. So what we're proposing to do, the side walls of what used to be the garage has, each side has 3 masonry pockets where there used to be beams that held up the roofing structure. And what we'd like to do is put 4x8 Douglas fir beams into those pockets. So there'd be 3 from front to back. And then on top of those, add 2x4 pressure treated lumber. And the whole idea is basically to create a trellis so that Susan, my lovely wife, can plant various things like tombstone roses and have them grow onto what was the roof of this structure. So in a nutshell, that's what we're looking to do.
All right. This time I turn it over to the board for discussions. Any questions for the applicant?
I don't have any questions, but I definitely have a comment. That garage structure looks awful. I mean, what it was. And I think closing is wonderful. I just, not that I see it every day, but I kind of do.
Oh, sure. I would agree with Linda wholeheartedly. I was out there today. It is pretty unsightly and it looks like it'll be a cool project when the trellis is up and the roses are vining and just kind of covered. Aesthetically, it'd be really pleasing. So I'm definitely, I don't see a problem with it. Any other comments?
Stephen Green coming in just to say, do we have any public comments on this?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so. Do we have any public comments here this evening? No. Linda, would you like to make the motion?
I would. I'd like to make the motion for DRB case number 2148 at 804A Tombstone Canyon to be approved as is, turning the garage into a trellis.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, now moving on to agenda item 7, application 21-49. Bisbee Residential Historic District contributing property by 146 located at 60 Opera Drive. Applicants Thomas and Annette Slusher. This application is seeking approval for repair a concrete retaining wall, install a new metal fence, and new corrugated metal and wood hacienda doors. At this time, I turn it over to the applicants for their presentation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Basically, this was a project that we thought we were going to start a few years ago, but the deal, we just purchased this piece of land. So we have the wrought iron gate, which was approved by the design review board a few years ago. But I know you're only good for a year approximately. So that the fence, I just wanted to mention, our property line goes down on our side of the existing fence. So we won't be taking that fence down. And basically the corrugated metal wall with the hacienda doors will be kind of like an art type structure. It's going to be hidden behind the trees. And that's about it. I think it's a pretty small job.
All right, do we have any public comments on this evening? No? All right, I turn it over to the board for discussion.
I just want to say that what has been done to this home, I saw it 14 years ago. It's remarkable. It looks great. I love what you're doing, but I would like to know how tall the urban design system is. Because usually I know those panels are like 3 by 6, but I see them on standoffs.
We're expecting to do like a 3 or 4 by 5. So the width will be 3 to 4 feet wide, height 5 feet.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Comment? Scott, you're muted. Linda's trying to unmute it for
I
him.
know. Did you see? Scott,
You're muted, Scott.
And that's all I have to say on the matter. No, I just wanted to say that I applaud the metal fencing as opposed to the bamboo that's already there. And I have seen this building make super strides as far as renovating and what it looks now as compared to what it has been. So I like all of the different facets that they're going to, that you're planning on doing in this upgrade. And I think that it's really going to be attractive to the city of Bisbee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, at this point, we can take a motion. If someone would like to make one.
I'll make a motion, excuse me, to approve DRB application 21-49 as presented.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, moving on, agenda item 8. Application 21-50 Bisbee Residential Historic District, contributing property number 1039 located at 9A Tembe. Applicant Andrew Miller, Firebrand Group LLC. The application is seeking approval for quite a few things. At this time, I'll turn it over to the applicant to give their presentation to the board so that we understand the full scope of work. Andy, you're muted.
Is that it?
There you go. You're good, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and board, thank you for hearing me tonight. I do have a series of different requests before the board, and it's kind of a preface. I'm under construction, under renovation of 9A Temple. I've been working on this for about 3 months now, and as the last time I was into the board, which was last October, November, I was in escrow on the property and things were moving very fast. And many things that I would not have anticipated at that time have come up. And many of these I think I would consider to be opportunities. And so these series of requests are, I think, largely in that vein. So the first thing is new and replacement windows. I'd like to request a new window approval for what would be the mezzanine level. There was an approval for 4 windows at that level previously. This would add a window to the north elevation, which I think would create a kind of a nicer relief of that elevation. It would also make the space with more light. But I think when you look at the rendering that I provided, it shows the difference between having something that has a residential scale and something that would be kind of a blank wall. An additional window, replacement window, would be at the bathroom on the west elevation. Currently, there's just a panel, a glass panel there that is rotting out, and I'd like to replace that with a more or less a square double hung window. I would also like to, and by the way, the west elevation is not visible from the street and is really only visible from 2 houses. And I'm not even sure that window is visible because there's a retaining wall behind the building, so I'm not entirely visible. But to match that, I would like to request approval to install a similar window, identical window, on the west elevation above a sink in the bathroom. Not in the bathroom, but in the kitchen. Additionally, on that elevation, and I'll touch on this in a couple of minutes, I'm requesting authorization to build a dormer. That dormer would only make sense if there was light brought in. And so there would be, my request is to build 3 double hung windows there. And I think that's it for the windows. So then the next thing is change mezzanine approved siding from 11-inch wide painted pine to 8-inch cement horizontal lap siding. Just in kind of looking at the practicality, even though the requested material is a little bit more expensive, it's just more durable and the proportions would look much better. So 11-inch, I think I used the word cartoonish. I think the 11-inch board would look a little bit cartoonish on this building. The third item is to change basement facing material from white siding to native stone. In the course of the demo for this house, I've done a tremendous amount of excavation and personally working with jackhammer a lot. And there's a tremendous amount of stone that's come up, and I'm looking at it, and it's really beautifully. It would look beautiful as I think, as a facing material at the basement. So that would, I think, also kind of tie the house a little bit more into kind of the Tembe, what the common use is on the street level at Tembe. There's a lot of stone that's used, and I think it would also anchor the building and break up what's a fairly large vertical plane. Number 4, addition of approximately an 8-foot by 10-foot dormer on the rear west elevation. Again, you can look at the rendering that I provided of that dormer. It again would allow for the conversion of a loft space. Without that, the loft space it probably doesn't make code. So I think it would look awesome. I think it would look this is my personal opinion, I think it would look in sync with the historic nature of the house. And I think it's something that proportionally would work well. And furthermore, to the extent somebody's a purist about the history, this is, again, the west facing elevation, and it doesn't, nobody sees it. Like maybe 1% of the population ever sees it. Number 5, approval of balcony/railing details. In the prior approval, DRB gave me authorization to work with staff on getting that approved. I thought that while I'm going back in, I would just go ahead and talk to you all directly about that, because there's been some change in the staff. And basically the railing details very, very simple. It's 2x2 pickets, 3 3/4 inches spacing in between, with a top rail and a bottom rail, and really no major facets to it. There's 100 different examples that are very similar to that in Bisbee. Number 6, replacement of 3 doors on the east elevation. There are 3 doors that go on to the rebuilding. They haven't taken down, and we're in the process of rebuilding it. And those doors, one is a metal door, a newer model metal door. Another is a cracked older wood door, and the third is a wood door that's in okay shape. I would have to replace 2 of the 3 doors anyway. In contemplating that, I think that the elevation and the space would look better with French doors than these particular doors that are there. I can certainly use what's there. I just think it's not a particularly good aesthetic. These would be, similar to those that are design guidelines for Old Bisbee. Number 7, security metal pipe railing between street and basement. Basically, the basement will become an accessory space. It's right virtually on the street, 4 to 5 feet off the street. I'd like to kind of create a physical barrier for safety purposes there. There are numerous examples, and I think one of the photos shows the property immediately across the street has a similar type of railing, and just a very, very simple pipe metal railing to kind of create psychological, but also kind of physical security. And that's it. That's the 7 items, and I'm certainly willing to take any questions.
All right. Do we have any public comments regarding this application tonight? No. Right. Open it up to the board for discussion.
What is the distance between the basement access and the railing? Is that like all on the same property, I'm guessing?
It would be on the property. It would, I would look to set off of the street pavement section by 8 or 10 inches. So the distance between the accessory space, it's not uniform. It tapers. So I would say that it goes anywhere from 10 inches to maximum of 5 feet. Where I want to put the railing, there would be about a 4 foot, 3.5, 4 foot entryway, kind of a landing area, walk into the accessory.
Is it mostly to protect that area?
It's to protect the area. Absolutely.
Ballards. Okay.
You could do ballard. I mean, I could definitely do ballards. This would be
No. It's what I was saying was it's similar to ballards. You just protect the area.
Exactly. And I think it's just psychological too. Part of it's physical, but part of it's psychological. It's just I think it would feel better for somebody in that space to have something. Otherwise, the front door will be right on the street. I mean, it'll be 3.5, 4 feet.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. The railings that were previously approved, how are those different than the ones that were there before, and also the ones that you're proposing now?
Well, if I understand your question, there was not, well, there was not an approval. The November hearing, the discussion was about doing a simple railing. The details were not laid out. It was delegated to staff, me working with staff to get that approved. Staff changed, and I thought, okay, I'll just go to DRB and we'll talk about it. So the previous railing was a mess, and it wasn't original. What I did find during the course of excavation in the basement area was what I think was the original railing. Or a section of it, and it was very simple, top and bottom rail. In fact, I have a photo of it. Kind of tacked onto 2x4s, and then this kind of weird thing that was on the top. Very look.
Now that things have been removed from the building and other stuff has been approved before, I just want to clarify that. Yeah, I'm fine with just about everything on here except for the French doors. In the previous application, I was pretty hard set on retaining as many original doors and windows as possible. And I'm probably going to stick to that. But other than that, the dormer, because it's facing the west, you can't really see it. It has utility. The stone wall, I'm fine with, especially because you're using native stone and you need it structurally. I'm fine with. And the 8-inch siding, if I understand correctly, closer matches what's above. However, previously the siding that was there was 12-inch unpainted, right?
Well, let me clarify that. A portion of it was 5.5 inch, a portion of it was 12, 11 inch. It was shrunk. It was installed green at 12 inches and became 11. But so it was a combination of the two, actually, which was a total mismatch. And I think that this will, the proposal would anchor the base of the building, but not be so different from what's up above. A lot more plain, a lot more utilitarian. Really, the top level, which is kind of the nicest part of the building.
Yeah, that's fine. So the overall dimensions of the porch and the angle of the porch roof and all of that is going back to how it was, right? Like that's not changed here. It's basically just rebuilding that silhouette.
Yeah.
Okay. So that part's same as the original application. Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I'm fine with the dormer because it's west facing. You're not to see it from the east, so it's not changing or altering the front of the building in any way, shape, or form. I'm fine with the French doors and what you've got proposed. I know Ben is near and dear to doors and windows. I'm often more in the middle, and I'm definitely fine with what you proposed. I still commend you for the project that you've taken on. This is just enormous. I drove by there today just to see how you were doing. And the scope of work is just insane. I thought I had it bad, and it was like kind of like, yeah, keep things in perspective. So I just want to commend you on what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm with the house nearly level. We had one corner that was 12 inches low. We've got about 11 to look down into.
Welcome to Bisbee. Does any of the board have any more comments or questions?
Stephen
Green coming in.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thank you. I also want to commend the applicant here on this project, because I think it's an excellent restoration. And although it involves some alterations, I think they're all in keeping, and a splendid project. I support it fully.
Thank you. Linda? Go ahead.
I'm going to say the same thing. And then I agree with you, Sean, as far as the doors. There's only one that he said that's good. The other one's completely destroyed. And then the modern one in the middle one is the middle one. So I commend you on this project. I've undertaken a big project, but nothing like this. So, and it'll be beautiful when it's done. So it's another good project to be completed for Bisbee.
Would someone like to make a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion in support of application number 21-50 as presented, with the board's thanks and congratulations for an amazing project.
I'll second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Just checking, making sure.
I'm sorry, who seconded
Thank you,
that?
sir. Have a great. Scott, second.
Scott, okay, sorry about that.
Hey, I'm sitting here trying to look over my, see the bottom of your face, Nina.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's been a long day. Oh, geez. All right, agenda item 9, moving right along. Application 21-50.
Thank you.
What's that?
Oh, no, I have John on speakerphone.
All right. All right. Agenda item 9, application 2151, Bisbee Residential Historic District, contributing property number 312, located at 24 Moon Canyon. Applicant Dale Turner, Representative John Sky. The application is seeking approval to demo both additions and rebuild to code. The applicant will submit for windows and doors at a later date. Focus only on the demo and rebuild tonight. And the 300-foot notification went out on May 10th, 2021. There were no public comments at the time that this agenda was sent out, and there are still no public comments as of this afternoon regarding this agenda item. At this time, we turn it over to the application or the applicant for presentation. Go ahead, John.
All right, so what we're doing there is very simple. We're gonna just keep, we're trying to keep the look of the house itself as it is now, but we need to tie in the rafters from the porch into the roof and then raise the front up about a foot. So it'll bring the room back, you know, it'll bring it back to code, and then bring the ceiling height back up to code at 7 feet. And then we're gonna put it back together. We'll stay with the original shiplap siding, and then we're gonna change all the slider windows in the house back to single hung windows, which will look like the original double hungs. And then we're gonna slam in some French doors in the front, and keep the original French doors in the back. And that's essentially all we need at this point until we get into building the front deck area or Oh, and I guess it's not just the side additions because there's a T111 edition that's really built. It's built out of T111 particle board with the wood grain. We're going to tear that addition off as well and then rebuild that and keep on with the single hung windows and the shiplap siding. So it's all pretty straightforward. We're not really trying to change too much as far as the aesthetics.
All right, you're good, John?
Yes.
All right. This time I'd like to declare the public hearing open for application 21-51 and receive public comments. Are there any comments this evening that are opposed? Any comments this evening that are in favor of this application? All right, at this time I declare the public hearing closed. I give it to the board for discussion. Real quick, I just want to preface this. I was out there with John today. I actually walked the property. And when you guys are looking at, when you look at the center of the home, that is the only original portion of the structure. They're not going to touch that original structure at all. The porch that faces east, part of it's original, and part of it is not. It's been added on. So they plan on retaining that whole center portion, tearing down those two sides, bringing them to code, and then it'll look like what we've got in the renderings. So that's just wanted to give you a little insight on what I saw today.
Except for the front of it will be recessed like it is. That was an error done by the guy who does the Photoshop. So it'll still be recessed, so it looks like the original structure. But that's the only difference, really. And obviously, those stupid lattice windows he put in there, that won't. It won't look like that. It'll just be the single hung windows all the way around, replacing the slider windows.
All right, it's open. It is open to the board for questions, discussion. Yeah, Scott.
I just have a quick question. Sean, you said you were out there with John today.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the one double hung entryway door that comes up off a few steps. That center gable is the original. Is that correct? And
That's
so,
correct.
John, you're going to be demoing the wing, the shed roof wing on the right side completely. Is that correct? That runs.
Well, it would have been a porch originally, but we're just going to rebuild it back the way it was. But what we're trying to do is get the roof rafters tied into the on top of the plate instead of just stuck onto the side of the plate. So it's only going to go up about 6 or 8 inches.
Okay, I guess, I don't know if this is gonna, if you guys can see this. So this is the original building right here, is that correct? Just this center?
In the center, yes.
And so you're gonna be demoing this area here, which is existing, and this doesn't look like there's anything over there now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, hey, Scott, on your left side right there, your left side, it's recessed back. It goes way back right now, and John's gonna keep that recess. In the renderings, it's not there, but they still have to tear down that side and rebuild it to tie it in, correct?
Okay, so what
Right.
you're saying that this face is not flush with this one, it's actually recessed back.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, John, is, so at the, I guess it's the north end, the opposite end from that double entryway, you're demoing what looks like the boiler room and some sort of utility room. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually a bathroom that they put on later on. It's an addition that was built out of T111 siding, and
right.
I mean, it's just terrible looking. So we're gonna just rebuild that back, cap it off on the end, and then keep up with the shiplap siding and the double hung windows.
I see.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question because the siding is vertical on that side, but that could just be the, everything's gonna match. It'll all be horizontal.
Yes, and what's on there now is the 4x8 sheets of T111 particle board siding with the wood grain, which actually is not allowed in the historic district at all.
Mm-hmm. Right, but on the,
But yeah, we're gonna go back to the horizontal siding, so the whole horizontal shiplap siding, so it all matches. The
on
whole
this,
house will go back to more original state.
okay, I was, yes.
Approving doors and windows at a later date, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I mean, single hung, double
John,
hung
that's-
windows are approved no matter what, so
Up
it's
to
not
you.
really,
When we originally got,
that's not an issue. I know what windows need to go in there. We're just replacing all the slider windows with single hung windows. So you can approve them now. I mean, I don't care. I can do this again, but if you look in your DRB handbooks, single hung windows are definitely approved.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just curious if you're going to approve the windows and doors at a later date and you're going to be framing, how can you not know what you're going to be putting in there?
But we're just filling the same holes with we're taking the sliders out and filling the same holes with approved windows. We're taking out not approved windows and putting in approved windows. So it's really a slam dunk situation.
Okay, you have 9 openings on that one side, and I see 6 windows on that side in the rendering.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've already spec'd those windows out or those sizes, is that correct?
Yeah.
So, wait, I need clarification. Are you gonna do 6 windows or 9 windows?
It would be the 9. I don't have the picture there, but yeah, we're gonna fill that slot with windows. We're just gonna continue what they did in the past and run them all the way up. And then on the back side, we're just gonna fill each slot that where there's a slider already, and we're gonna put a window in there.
Okay, so you're gonna fill those 9 existing holes on the and forgive me, I don't know north, south, east, and west here, but the one face that I'm looking at now, where you can actually see the shed bathroom in the back, there's 9 holes. They're not centered. It's asymmetrical, but you're planning on putting 9 windows to fit in those particular side or openings?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
all right, anybody else, any questions, comments? All right, would anybody like to put forth a motion? I'll put forth a motion. I move to approve application 21-51 as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. All right, passes unanimously. Good luck, John.
Hi, John.
No, that was me, Ben, that seconded.
Oh, okay. And then when you say as is, so he can do the windows and the doors?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. I mean, he's exactly right. He's not doing anything out of the DRB guidelines.
Nope.
All right, moving on, agenda item 10, approval of the minutes of the April 21st, 2021 special session meeting. Someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll second. I'll make it first.
I'll second
All right,
it.
do I have a second?
I,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Moving on to agenda item 11.
Sean, I'm
approval of the
sorry.
minutes Of May 5th, 2000.
I never heard who motioned or who seconded. I'm sorry, my computer froze again. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You got a long day like we all have. Scott motioned, Peter
Okay.
Gaffer second, unanimous. We're on
Okay.
agenda item 11.
All right, thank
Approval of the
you.
minutes of May 5th, 2021 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Okay, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 12. Review regarding 300-foot notification. We've got 3 items of review tonight. We'll get through these. I know it's been a long meeting. I'm gonna get through these. 3.5 architectural design review for historical preservation overlay district. 3.5.2 review requirements and the procedures. Certain applications for work that may have a greater potential to impact the character of the historic district shall require additional notification to be completed by city staff prior to presentation to the design review board. These shall include the following proposed activities. 1, the construction of a new building or structure within the district other than construction of a sign, fence, or wall. 2, the demolition of any building or structure other than minor storage facilities or accessory buildings. 3, the increase of the height of any existing building. Or 4, any substantial modification to any building or structure that has been designated as having special significance or as a contributing structure within the historic district. Written notification of the application, including a description of the proposed action, a drawing depicting the proposed exterior evaluations, must be mailed by first-class mail to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, not less than 15 days prior to the design review board hearing. The subject property must be posted with the same information for the same time period. The city uses the county GIS system to get the 300-foot notification addresses. Does anybody have any questions? The process is in for agenda item 12.
I don't have a question.
Stephen
Stephen,
Green
go.
again. What's the difference between what we're doing now and what's proposed?
There is no difference.
There was, yeah, there is no
we
difference.
Go ahead, Nine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. There is no difference. I was just asked last time by, I don't remember who, about the 300-foot notification process, about when it has to go, when a 300-foot notification is needed and how we get the addresses. So that's why I went ahead and let you know that that's what was in the code. And then that's how we do it. And and I followed those 1 through 4. And if I have any questions, I ask Joe, and I think Joe's going to speak too. Joe?
Yeah, most of it's unambiguous when you read this, but the only thing that we get hung up on sometimes is the notification and determining what's substantial. We try our best to determine, between something that's minor and something that's substantial, and to always bring it to you when we just to bring it to put the 300-foot notice forward. I should say whenever it is substantial, in our opinion.
Say something about it, because I definitely asked about when is the 300-foot notice sent out and when it's not. I heard from the people up around 15 Wood Canyon. Some people received a notice on their windshield wiper. Most people did not get the description. All it was the, whatever was posted on the gate. So I think there was a lot of confusion this week on that. And I think that if the cover letter that Brian Hope had put together had been sent along with that, I think it would have eased some of the people's hesitation or, being so against it. I don't think they really knew the scope of the work. On the signage. Oh.
Sorry, I was going to say, I did not send anybody out to put anything on a windshield, so I don't know who sent those out. Joe posted those notices, and the reason that I did not include Brian Hope's is because I try not to make it so heavy since the city has to pay for those. And I want to say there were, over 60 envelopes that I mailed out, and about 3 or 4 of them came back as return to sender. So what I tried to do was go right off of what he had put on the application, and I used the rendering of the 2. And I did have plenty of calls, and I talked to everybody, so I'm not sure. I don't know what I could have done differently. I wasn't going to include Mr. Hope's thing because of the weight of the envelope. We try to make it as simple as possible, and if they have questions, they call. Joe, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
I kind of lost what I was gonna say, but we didn't put anything on their windshields. I posted it only on the gate, and that's what the city did. Oh, and I wanted to say that the addresses for the homeowners come straight off of the tax rolls, and so if people have the wrong addresses on the tax rolls, which happens many times, we're within the law, and what we're supposed to do is we send it to the whatever they have from the county assessor on the tax rolls as their address, and that's where it has
Right.
to go.
And my comment wasn't whether it was legal or not. My comment was, and it wasn't like the whole package that Brian Hope placed there, but there was no true description of what was happening. And so there seemed to be just a lot of confusion.
Okay.
I think generally going forward, I think generally speaking, these notifications are not the application. These notifications are that something significant is going to happen with this structure. It is a public hearing notice. If you want to learn more about it and be involved in the public hearing, go here. This is when it's going to be. And I believe that that's really what the design and structure of these are for, if I understand it correctly.
You're correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess
Are you done?
concern is they don't get, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sean, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, I spent considerable amount of time at 15 Wood Canyon this weekend, and I spoke to quite a few people that are actually on Wood Canyon. They were confused, thinking that the driveways getting to the 2 properties that Mr. Yancey wants to put in were going to be off of Wood Canyon. Is there something online once those notices are put out that they can actually look at, and it can clarify the scope of what we're looking at a little better for them?
The only thing that the public
and the 5 out of 7 letters that we received, the 5 out of 7 letters that we received against it were all, in my understanding, they misunderstood exactly what the scope of the job was asking for.
Okay, so Joe placed the notice on the Wood Canyon side, and we debated where to put it, but we wanted it to be seen by whoever was coming by there. We didn't know whether to put it on the Laughlin side or on the Wood Canyon side. That's why on the notice I put that the 15 Wood Canyon was the parent parcel. That way, when they had questions and called, I could let them know that it's actually on the Laughlin side and how it was going. And I understand that, but I mean, I thought with new constructions of a 2-story, 1,500 square foot each residence was as much description, because it's not the application. So I just go by what the description is. And I debated which picture to put on there, and I talked with Joe, and we felt that the rendering that had the two with the colors were a little better to see, because everything else, when we copied it, is all black and white. And because it's the drawings, it makes them very much lighter and you can't see anything. And I understand there was confusion. And maybe next time we could handle that a little differently, but I don't know. I'm still not understanding how more clear I could have been. And that's just me.
Well, just one second. And the other thing is, on these public hearing notices, is the application hasn't even been approved. So they could have, they could have 15 different designs that, we haven't even decided on anything. And so to get that specific on a public hearing notice is, it's basically saying this is what it's going to be. And that's not necessarily the case, because it's got to go before the board. It's got to go, it's got to go through its process. So it's no different than living in a big city. When you get a notification that a public hearing notice that something's going to happen, it doesn't come with architectural plans, and it doesn't come with this. You have to dig and go and find the information. I think that, we got to move on with one more question, and we need to move on from this. But
no, mine's a very simple question, John.
Yeah.
It's the information that we get in our packets from you, Nina, is a lot more information than that the people are reacting to from these notices that are posted. Is there a link anywhere that they can see this information when you post them?
So what happens, the only thing that gets posted on the website is just the agenda, but I do have a packet at City Hall. And if anybody asks for one, I let them know that they can come and get one, or I can email one to them.
Okay.
And now City Hall is open, so they will be able to come now and look at those packets without having to, get a copy of it. But no, the only thing that goes on the website is just the agenda, none of the backup information, because I'd have to redact their mailing address, their email, their phone number. So it's just easier if we just put that there.
Okay.
All right. Are we all in agreement to move on from agenda item 12 to agenda item 13 for review at this point?
I heard something about signage. Is that, or are we gonna open that one up?
That one is coming up soon.
Yeah, that one's on 14.
Okay.
Agenda item 12 from Stephen Green here. All I want to say is that the public notice aspect of this is something that's gone on for centuries. And in the old days, it was, a notice on the town hall or in the church or something. And, all we're doing is what's been done for eons. Nowadays, we've got this internet, so anybody can go in and look. I think we're in a great situation. I think everybody's aware of it. I think we should, and I'd like to put a motion to approve agenda item 12 as presented.
I'll second.
We don't need a motion. It was just review. Yeah, we just, it was just a review, but thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you.
If you want to make a motion to move on to agenda item 13, I gladly do that.
Let's make a motion to move on.
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to agenda item 13. All right, review regarding administrative approval. I imagine that this is probably going to be a little bit of another touchy subject. If we could each allow one person to speak and then respond and have a civil conversation with this, that would be greatly appreciated. Property owners of historic districts shall have the right and are encouraged to maintain their property. The building inspector may approve a building permit without design review board approval for any work that consists of nothing more than repair work where there will be no exterior change that will alter the character of the structure or where any similar replacement materials will be used. Repairs and improvements such as re-roofing, the replacement of windows, doors, and stairs in the same locations, and the replacements of gutters, fencing, utility connections, and other similar non-structural elements may also be directly authorized by the building inspector. An administrative approval from the community development director must be obtained prior to the issuance of a building permit for any such work. 2.6.2, powers and duties. Said powers may be delegated by the design review board to the planning and zoning administrator to approve, conditionally approve, or deny any application for minor remodel, signs, and demolition. The power is delegated to the building inspector, Joe Ward. The city does not have a planning and zoning administrator. Nina.
Yes. So this was brought.
Anything to add to that?
No, but this was brought up. I can't, I think Miss Linda, you wanted to know about administrative approvals, or somebody did. I can't remember. Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that it was clear. Go ahead.
No, I brought it up, and my question was, on 331, the parlor, John Scott's sign, and then on 4/7, we had our meeting, but that never came through, but it came through on 4/8. So my question was, I was just questioning, I thought the administrative approvals we had decided were the roofing and retaining walls. And so now to signage, and now you just, Sean just is part of this. So why are we reviewing fencing and administrative type approval? So I just wanted to know protocol, because it seems to move around a
I can
lot.
answer that question for you. So what's been here tonight is not just suddenly put in here tonight. This has been what's in place. This is out of zoning code. A lot of times what happens is there are applications that come in, and it's like for like replacement on fencing, roofing, windows. And if it doesn't, what I've learned from working with the city over the last, as a chairman now, is that they get together, usually Joe Ward, Nina, our former city manager, and they sit there and they go, does this meet the design merits? Do we need to send it on to the board? And if they have any question, I'll get a call or I'll get an email and say, hey, do we need to send this to the board? And I'll say, yes, you need to send it to the board. But on the murals or on the sign that happened, I didn't. And the reason I didn't was because every single bit of it met the design review board guidelines. And so Joe made the decision as the building inspector to go ahead and sign off on that and give permission to do it, because it was a very cut and dry case. It met every single letter of the DRB guidelines. That's how it happened. Go ahead, Joe.
When there is any question, there has been in the past. I've been doing this with you guys for 7 years, and there's been sometimes that I wasn't comfortable with the signs. I didn't think that they met the guideline in one way or another, and it's always gone to when that happens, it's always gone for the board.
Okay, so so it's done by committee is what you're saying, yeah?
Well, I get with Joe on every application that comes in, and we discuss whether it should go or not. And if we have any, like Joe said, if we think that it needs to go through the board and it doesn't, we're kind of iffy on some of the things, then it goes to the board. But if it meets the criteria that the design review board has and we have the power to administratively approve it, then we do.
Okay.
When currently with the situation we have now, if Nina has a concern or I have a concern that it shouldn't be administratively approved, then we always give it to the board because we don't have a consensus.
Okay, good to know.
They do.
Yeah, also, do I have any comments other than Sean?
I can say there's quite a vetting process to ensure that what we get is accurate and correct, and that an application is complete and that the pictures are there. I've learned just in the last couple of months, there's a lot more involved in this than what we even realize and know what has gone on. It's been great for me to learn, just to understand how the process works. I didn't know that they had their own, like, if Nina gets the application and looks at it and I got a question on this, and then it goes to Joe. And Joe's been doing this for years. He used to be the liaison for the DRB directly, and he used to put the agenda packets together, and they used to come to us. So I'm comfortable with the decision that was administratively approved on that sign. In fact, I even messaged the applicant and I said, hey, great sign. I said, that looks awesome. So that's me. Anybody else have any other comments?
Well, I want to say one last thing. The only thing I want to make sure is, as public servants, that we treat everybody equally. And this one definitely was a little unusual, and was passed through quickly. It was approved prior to our meeting, a good 7 days. We didn't receive it until the next day, which was a full month prior to the next meeting. And I'm not saying that there was anything wrong with it, but when I asked you, Sean, I believe your comment was, well, that's Bisbee politics. I'm sorry. I've been here 14 years. I don't buy into the Bisbee politics. So I call it as I see it. I just want to make sure everybody is treated exactly the same way. That's the only way we can operate. And
That's right. Yeah.
And if it's something that Nina can approve, I'm perfectly fine with that. I was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Oh, right. But the other thing I want to tell you is 7 days prior to the agenda being made is too late to get an application in. I have to have it 10 days prior to that Wednesday meeting. So it was too late to get it on there. And that wasn't the reason why I felt like it could be. I felt like it met all of the criteria. And why should I make them wait a whole nother month when, you know, the character of the sign fit in with that building. The letters were, everything that was on there was, you know, in the design review board guidelines, but that's the only reason. But I do want to tell you, but 10 days prior to that, that's when I have to have the applications, all of them turned in.
And I would also, I would also like to add, I would also like to add that my personal comments outside of this board meeting have been taken out of context. And I would prefer context, the entire context to be outlined if you're going to go to that level. And if we can keep it as a professional manner, this is a board. We're not here to dig at each other. Okay.
That wasn't, that's how you took it. I'm just repeating what I heard.
You had an entire conversation.
I'd like to add in something to Ben, lovely, that I'd like to see more administrative approvals, generally speaking, just to reduce the amount of stress on people that are trying to do stuff in town. But I would say that for the sign one in particular, because that's a design element, as in a new design, it's not like for like replacement. I would have disagreed with administratively approving that because it's a new design element, and design by definition is subjective. And but anyways, generally speaking, all the other admin approvals pretty much I've wanted to see more of. So that's just my 2 cents. Yeah.
And I agree with Ben.
Anybody else?
I agree with that as well. It was just that this one situation it just overreached the like for like, and it went into a brand new sign that was it was not replacing a sign. It was actually new artwork, and I thought that was something that we should have decided on. So I think I'm a little over the line on. I think that should have been our decision.
All right. Anybody else? We have one more agenda item to go.
And Nina and Joe, I think you guys are doing a great job. So thanks for always keeping us informed. And, you know, this is just from not really being around that long and not really beforehand. So I appreciate everything you do. And Sean, this was not big on you at all. This is just an observation. So
yeah, we just need to keep conversations that go on outside the board off of this meeting. That's not what we're here for. Moving on to agenda item 14. Review regarding sign and mural administrative approval.
Sean?
Yes.
Can I make a personal request?
Sure.
That we defer agenda item 14 to the special meeting? Because I've got a feeling that's going to go on for a long time. I'm very tired. I got a rotten cold.
I'm with you. I'm exhausted, and I would be more than favored to accept a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to defer discussion of agenda item 14 until the special meeting, whenever it be held.
I'll second that. This is Yvette.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 15, discussion and possible approval to hold special session in June to review the design review board guidelines. Is there any objections here to scheduling that for the 23rd when Nina is available?
No, I'd just like to add, adding in agenda item 14 to that.
And adding an agenda item 14.
Yeah.
Nina?
Yes.
Question for Nina. You had sent or do we just wait? Because it'd be nice to just get it approved.
I'm sorry,
For the guidelines.
I could not hear most of what you said I don't know what's wrong with my computer tonight. So I'm sorry. So just give me the gist.
Point of order? Hey, Nina, can I call a point of order?
Yes.
One, this agenda item is only to discuss putting on the schedule for June 23rd if we're going to do a special session.
Okay.
Does anybody here oppose having a special session on June 23rd to finally approve and adopt the guidelines and send them to the city attorney? All right. Do I have a motion to set that meeting?
I would accept the meeting.
All right. Do I have a second?
I don't know if I got there or not, but
So I have Scott motioned and Peter seconded.
all right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Say aye.
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 Half comments.
Aye.
Aye.
The only comment that I really have is if I could get everybody's, I've only heard back from one person regarding the guidelines. So if I can get everybody's comments or updates or suggestions by the 10th, that way I can get everything changed, fixed for the 23rd.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Nina. That was my question.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
It's fine.
All right. Moving right
And
along. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Sean. I just wanted to say, I think Nina, you also said if we don't have any changes, you'd like an email just so you have everybody accounted for, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So noted.
All right. Moving along. Any future agenda item suggestions? May I remind the board, this is not open for discussion, simply a suggestion for an item to put on a future agenda. Scott.
I would like to request a discussion so we can, for clarification, discuss when a special meeting can be, or a special session meeting can be requested.
Okay. Anything else?
I would also like to open a discussion as to what is happening with the Bisbee Social Club parking and as because in my opinion, my opinion is that if that is going to continue to stay there, that falls under our purview.
Not the parking part. It doesn't. And if they got, I'm not sure, but I believe they put in a extension of premises. And I'll have to check that, but I will check on that tomorrow. I'll put myself a note. But if they put in an extension for premises and it was approved during COVID, then they can still continue to have where the tables are now, the little barricades and all of that. But I will check that.
Yeah, can you find out that information and can we have a small discussion on that? Because I know that's been a curiosity of mine since I've been on the board.
Okay. And I will preface it with, if it is in the purview of the DRB guidelines, it will be on the agenda. If it is not, it will not be on the next agenda.
I will.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, go ahead.
I couldn't catch exactly what you said, Sean.
I said, if it is in the purview of the DRB guidelines, it will be on the next agenda. If it is not, it will not be on the agenda and we will not have the discussion on it. Okay.
If it's not something that can go on the agenda, Sean, I can send out an email and let them know that with the extension of premises and all of that, if that's okay.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
That's
Nina.
fine. That would be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Oh, Nina, thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so very much. Couldn't do it without Joe.
All right. At this time, I think it's time to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I'll second it.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Have a great night.
Aye. You
Aye,
too.
aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Joe.